So I came about science communication in a roundabout way. Right after earning my bachelor's degree in chemistry, I went on to pursue my PhD in chemistry at Vanderbilt University. But my experience as a chemistry graduate student didn't really pan out to what I expected it to be. And so as a creative outlet, I turned to YouTube, specifically science YouTube.
Science communication had been on my radar for years before I made my official pivot. I majored in chemistry in college and minored in writing. I was a chemistry PhD student at the University of Michigan. I felt like my creativity, my sense of wonder was being stifled. And a lot of my journey from the lab to where I am now has been about trying to recapture a feeling of wonder. I was leading this science camp for high school students on sustainable polymers.
So I first became interested in science communication when I started writing for my university newspaper. And that happened when I was assigned to have to read the newspaper in one of my entrepreneurship classes. And when I read the paper, I realized that I was a little bored with some of the work that I was doing in my computer science major, and that I wanted to combine it with a more like social science perspective and study it in a different way. And reporting would allow me to do that.
And when I say science YouTube, it's just essentially any type of YouTube channel that is science or science, technology, engineering, and math based, where they're explaining some type of scientific concept. So as someone who decided to use science YouTube as my platform for science communication, I noticed that a lot of the science communicators that I admire did not look like me. They didn't really reflect me. And that lack of representation in science media was also reflected in my department that I was working with.
It's a 2-week camp. And getting into the second week, I realized that I was absolutely dreading the end of camp. I'll just sum it up by saying what I was doing in the lab was not fulfilling. Talking to teenagers about sustainable polymers was fulfilling.
And so I called the editor of like the newspaper and I asked her if they allow like contributing writers, and she let me contribute a few articles, and then they brought me onto the team full time.
I decided that I wanted to use my platform as a tool to inspire the next generation of marginalized students to consider pursuing STEM as a career. And so that is the main focus of my YouTube channel, Future Doctors, which plays on the PhD.
And luckily, I got a slot in this undergrad level science journalism class, which was a phenomenal experience. By the second week, all the pieces snapped into place. I loved talking about the impact that science has on society and the problems that it was solving, but also creating.
And I remembered that I used to really love writing when I was little, and that I could use reporting and like combine it with some of my studies to go deeper into like computer science and study it from a more social standpoint.
And I loved it so much that it came at the expense of my chemistry PhD. And so I was given the option to either stay in the program or to leave with my master's, but as someone who was very adamant about earning a PhD, I decided to pursue a PhD in science communication. And so then now my science YouTube project is now my dissertation, and I'm a PhD candidate in science communication at Vanderbilt University.
I have a master's degree in chemistry from the University of Michigan. Initially, I was on the PhD track, but I left my PhD program in winter 2020 to pursue science writing.
I'm a recent graduate of the University of Florida, where I majored in political science and minored in computer science. I originally started as a computer science major, but I later switched to political science when I realized that I wanted to study technology from a more social standpoint.
So I'll be working for the Las Vegas Review-Journal this summer, and I'm really excited because I get to tell both written and video stories.
My fellowship this summer will be at Discover. I'll be writing stories for the web and hopefully some for the print magazine. I'm very excited to see my name in print.
I'll be working in the Raleigh News and Observer in North Carolina.
I think a lot of mass media fellows pivot towards science communication because I feel like we're always either pushed to either go into academia or to stay in the industry. But when we find out there's a career where we can actually explore and share our passion to do science through a different medium and use a creative outlet to kind of share that science, I think it's what really gravitates us to continue to pursue science communication as a career.
I'm definitely not the only PhD student who made a pivot like this or thought about making a pivot like this. I was actually one of 2 people in my lab who was interested in science communication. It just meant letting go of my intense fear of failing at it and just leaping into it. I'm glad I did, because this is what I love doing.